Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed at 1,000 subscribers. I'll be posting a special video. I don't want her at my birthday. My fork stopped halfway to my mouth and stayed there. Emma sat across from me, elbows tight against her sides, jaw set. 13 years old and somehow heavier than me in that moment. I tried to play it cool because that is my default move. Inside, something already knew this was not a random mood. I'm Mark 39 and I thought I understood my kid. I thought this was just another small storm we would ride out. Now writing this, I can see the exact second I blew it. Back then I just blinked, laughed once and went straight into denial. You know that stupid dad confidence when you assume it will pass. What do you mean, not want her there? I set the fork down finally, like that changed the topic. Wait. Emma stared at the table, then back at me, eyes locked. I mean, if she comes, I'm not having a party. Her voice did not shake, which honestly scared me more than shouting. I actually chuckled, which still makes me cringe while I type this. Come on, Em, you're not canceling your whole party over this. I tried to sound light, like we were joking about homework or chores. She did not smile, did not even blink, just tapped one knuckle hard. Then do not invite her, she said like it was the weather. Here is the part where I started negotiating like a coward. What if she just drops you off, then heads out after a bit? My hands moved while I talked, drawing useless shapes in the air. Emma shook her head before I even finished that weak offer. I do not want her there at all, not for 1 minute. I could feel my chest tightening like I was the kid instead. That is pretty harsh, you know that, right? The parent tone came out, that flat warning you give over stupid stuff. Her shoulders came up and stayed there like armor she had practiced. She is harsh all the time, you just are not there to hear it. That line landed like a punch, and I hated how defensive I felt. I wanted to tell her she was exaggerating, that it could not be that bad. I also wanted to rewind and tell myself to shut up and listen. Instead, I pushed forward because I was already in the wrong lane. What did she do now, Emma? What are we even talking about? You know. She looked away when she said that, which somehow made it worse. If you do not invite her, we can just enjoy the party. Her fingers picked at the edge of her napkin, tearing tiny strips. If you make her come, I will not enjoy anything at all. I hated that word make, like I was forcing Emma into some performance. Still, I leaned on it because it felt easier than facing the real issue. She is my wife, Em, she is part of this family. The second the word family left my mouth, Emma's head snapped up. Then pick which part you care about more just for one day. That question hung between us, heavier than the whole last year combined. She was not yelling, but somehow it felt louder than any screaming match. I heard it in my head as an accusation, not just a request. And yeah, if that sounds dramatic, trust me, it felt worse sitting there. I suddenly wished the party did not exist, just so I could escape choosing. You are asking me to choose between you and her. I tried to say it slow, like I was clarifying, not guilt-tripping my kid. Emma nodded once, eyes shining but not letting anything actually fall. Just that day, she whispered, like it made the whole thing reasonable. If she comes, it is not my birthday, it is her performance. The cruel part is, I understood exactly what she meant by performance. Even now, I can picture Jenna's bright smile that turns brittle at edges. Back then, I pretended not to notice that shift because it helped me cope. Adults are complicated, I almost said, like that would fix anything here. Instead, I rubbed my forehead and reached for the safest lie I could find. Look, we can talk about who comes later, I told her, voice way too calm. First, we need to figure out the guest list, games, all of that. I tried to drag the conversation back to balloons and cake and noise. Emma pushed her chair a little back, not enough to stand, just enough to distance. You already decided, she said quietly, you just don't want to say it out loud. That line sliced straight through every fake calm I was using. Because she was right and also wrong in the most annoying way. I had not decided yet, but I knew where I was leaning even then. Not toward the morally correct or emotionally brave option, obviously. Toward the choice that would keep me from sleeping on the couch again. I have not decided anything, I snapped, sharper than I meant. Her eyes widened for a second, then cooled, which hurt more than tears. Sure, she said, and that one word sounded older than 13. She pushed her plate away and stood up, arms folded across her chest. Let me know when you pick whose birthday it actually is. She walked out, footsteps fast and light lick. She needed distance now. I stayed at the table staring at 2 plates and one empty chair. You would think that would be my wake-up moment, my big realization. It was not, because apparently I needed a full disaster later to learn. Back then I just sat there and started building the first stupid excuse in my head. Here is the ugly truth I keep circling while I write this. When your kid forces you into a corner, you see yourself very clearly. You see whether you are the brave dad or the comfortable one. I wanted to be the brave one so badly that I believed my own spin. I told myself I could keep everyone happy and that life felt almost kind. I stood up finally and gathered the plates just to move my hands. I was already thinking about how to phrase things to Jenna later. Not the real version where my daughter begged me to exclude her. The watered-down version where logistics somehow made it tricky for adults. I did not say any of that out loud yet, but the decision started there. Emma slid a notebook across the table and tapped twice. Here's I wrote everyone down already. Her tone was crisp, like she had practiced this move. I pulled the list closer and my stomach tightened before I read it. I already knew what name would not appear, and that scared me. The first page was full of classmates and a couple neighbors. I traced each line with my finger, buying time I did not really have. Every name looked loud and harmless, just kids and noise and sugar. Halfway through, I felt that stupid hope that maybe I was wrong. Then I hit the bottom and the silence around one missing name roared. No coaches, no cousins, no one else. Emma leaned on the table, eyes on my face, not the notebook. The challenge was right there, wrapped in those 3 short lines. Looks good, I answered, stalling because I still had one test. I tapped the empty space at the end and heard my own voice shake. You sure you did not forget anyone? I kept it light, almost teasing, like we were checking a grocery list. Her eyebrow twitched just for a second. I wrote everyone I want, she replied, fingers curling under the edge. If someone is missing, it's on purpose. There it was, delivered straight, no extra drama. I could have stopped, closed the notebook, respected the message. Instead, I pushed because I thought good parenting meant pushing. What about Jenna? I asked, finally dropping the fake casual tone. The air between us tightened, sharp and thin. Emma looked down at the page again, though she did not read. Did you see her name on there? She asked, still staring at the paper. No, I answered, and my throat felt crowded. Then that is your answer. She crossed her arms as if she needed something to hold. She wants to help with the party, I tried, already hating myself. I pictured Jenna planning decorations in her head, eager and nervous. That picture made the next words even harder to say out loud. She was talking about maybe organizing games, maybe baking something. I watched Emma's face close down another inch. She can bake on a different day. Emma pushed the notebook back to me, then pulled it closer again. You asked me who I want there, I told you. Her voice stayed calm, which somehow hurt more than shouting. If she comes, I will not feel like it is mine. There it was again, that choice wrapped inside innocent words. I could feel a headache pushing at the back of my eyes. Birthdays are not just about one person, I started, already losing the room. They are about everyone who cares coming together. I sounded like a greeting card that nobody believes. Emma snorted, short and bitter. Yeah, funny how she only cares when people can see it. That line hit hard, probably because a piece of me agreed. I opened my mouth, ready to argue, then shut it again. I was not sure which part I wanted to defend. Look, she continued, leaning forward now instead of away. I am not asking you to break up with her. Her eyes met mine, clear and steady and older than they should be. I am asking for one afternoon without her acting like my director. Each word landed in a neat row, like she had rehearsed them alone. If you have ever been out-argued by your own kid, you know the feeling. You watch your grown-up logic evaporate because their pain is so specific. I knew something had happened between them, more than eye rolls. I also knew I had not pushed hard enough to get the whole picture. So I did what I do best when cornered, I reached for compromise. Okay, I said, hands raised a little, like that could calm us. How about this, maybe we make it a kid's thing this year? The words slid out before my brain finished checking them. Like a strict rule, only your age group, no adults hanging around. As soon as I spoke, the lie settled on the table between us. Emma blinked, thrown off by the sudden shift. Only kids, she repeated, testing the idea out loud. Our shoulders eased, just a fraction, almost against her will. So she would not be there at all. Her voice climbed slightly on that last word, almost hopeful. I nodded, already building the script I would use later. Yeah, I can tell everyone the same thing, drop off, pick up later. I pretended to study the notebook again, avoiding her eyes. It will just be you and your friends, no one hovering. The lie grew legs and started walking the room. Even you, she asked, squinting at me now. That question stalled me, she had found the weak spot in my plan. I cleared my throat, buying one more second that I did not deserve. I will be in the back, making sure nothing catches on fire. I tried to smile like it was a joke, but my face felt tight. She stared for a long beat that stretched way too far. Then she nodded slow like she was signing a contract. Fine, only people my age, no step anything, deal. She held out her hand across the table, fingers stiff. I shook it and it felt less like a promise and more like a trap. Looking back, that was the fork in the road. I could have said, wait, this is messed up, we need a deeper talk. I could have told her I would handle the tension between them head on. Instead, I chose the path lined with polite lies and careful half-truths. I picked the option that let me avoid a real confrontation for a little longer. We spent the next 10 minutes filling in details. Snacks, games, pickup times, nothing that mattered like the earlier words. The more normal we sounded, the worse I felt. Emma leaned over the notebook with fresh energy, planning stations and prizes. I watched her come back to life while my guilt started digging in. At one point, she glanced up as if remembering something sharp. If she gets upset, that is not my problem, she said. The way she said it told me it absolutely was her problem. That is between you two, I am done trying to fix her behavior. Then she bent back over the page, shutting the topic down. I should have asked about that last line. I should have pushed for details right then while her guard was cracked. Instead, I filed it away under later, the laziest folder in existence. I told myself I would bring it up when we both felt calmer. You can guess how that plan actually worked out. That evening, the house was quiet enough that my thoughts got loud. Jenna came over to the couch, phone in hand, face bright. So, she started, settling beside me with a little bounce. How did the party planning go? Is she excited? The question sounded so hopeful that my chest squeezed. Yeah, she is into it, I replied, forcing my shoulders to loosen. She wrote everything out, she knows what she wants. Jenna smiled at that, a quick proud flash. Good, I was thinking maybe we could set up a surprise thing. Her fingers moved as she talked, already arranging invisible decorations. Here it was, the moment the lie had been waiting for. I felt it climb up my throat while I searched for a polite angle. About that, I started, rubbing my hands over my face once. She is pretty firm on keeping it a kids-only hangout. The words dropped between us, light on the surface, heavy underneath. Jenna's fingers stilled mid-air. Kids only, she repeated, trying the phrase out like it tasted strange. Like no parents hanging around at all. I nodded, not trusting myself to add much more. Yeah, just drop off, pick up quick. For a second, she looked straight at me, right past the script. Something in her eyes flickered, hurt or disappointment or both. Then she swallowed it down so fast I almost doubted I saw it. Okay, I mean that makes sense for her age, she answered. She leaned back, but her hands stayed folded tight in her lap. I could have stopped and told her the truth right there. I could have said she specifically does not want you there and it is bad. We could have fought about reality instead of pretending around it. Instead, I doubled down because that is what cowards do. It will be easier on everyone, I added, trying to smooth imaginary wrinkles. Jenna let out a soft breath, more puff than sigh. I just wanted to be part of it, she murmured, eyes on the floor. The line was quiet, almost casual, but it dug into me. I thought maybe helping would show her I care. She pressed her lips together like that last word cost extra. I did what I always do when someone shows me raw feelings. I reached for reassurance instead of real honesty. You do care, she knows that, I insisted, even though I was not sure. This is just a phase, middle school nerves, she wants independence. I stacked those phrases like sandbags against a flood. Jenna nodded, though I could tell she did not fully buy it. If she changes her mind, I am around, she said. I can stay out of the way, whatever she needs. Her voice sounded careful now, like she was walking on glass. She stood up to refill her drink and her shoulder. Es looked smaller. As she walked away, I felt the two promises pulling in opposite directions. One handshake at the table with my kid. One quiet agreement in the living room with my wife. Both built on the same shaky story I had invented to keep peace. That peace would not last, but at that point I still believed it might. Emma yanked the passenger door shut and crossed her arms. We are not talking about decorations today. No hello, no warm-up, just that line sharp and final. I had not even pulled out of the driveway yet. My hands tightened on the wheel before I could stop them. We are not driving in silence either. I backed out slowly, watching her reflection in the mirror. Her jaw worked like she was chewing words she refused to say. We need to go over what actually happened with Jenna. Even saying her name made the air feel heavier. I already told you I do not like her. Emma stared straight ahead, heel bouncing against the floor. That is not an event, I answered, trying to keep my tone level. Something specific happened and nobody will give me a full version. I glanced over and caught the quick flash of panic in her eyes. She sucked in a breath, long and shaky. If I tell you, will you finally stop acting like she is perfect? That word dug in because I knew Jenna was far from flawless. I also knew I had defended her a lot, sometimes too fast. Tell me and I will listen, I promised, hoping it counted for something. She held that promise in a stare for a few seconds. Then she leaned her head back and closed her eyes. It started on the ride home after practice, she began quietly. You were working late, remember, so she came to get me. Her fingers twisted the strap of her backpack like she wanted it to snap. I knew the day she meant the second she said practice. Jenna had mentioned a tense drive, called Emma rude and moody. Back then I nodded and muttered something about hormones and stress. Now I listened like I was hearing about strangers. Okay, you got in the car, then what? I asked. She took my phone as soon as I buckled. Emma opened her eyes and looked at me, daring me to interrupt. She said you told her to check my messages sometimes. That part made my stomach turn because I had never said that. I stayed quiet though because I needed the whole thing first. There was a text from Mom on my screen. Her voice softened on that word, then hardened again. Jenna saw the notification and grabbed the phone out of my hand. Emma lifted her arm like she was reliving the snatch. She did not ask, she just took it. I started to say Jenna probably just reacted without thinking. Emma cut in before I could form the sentence. She unlocked it with my face, by the way. That detail made my skin crawl and I hated that it did. I told her to stop, she kept scrolling. What were the messages about? I already had a guess and I hated that too. Emma let out a humorless breath, almost a laugh, almost a cough. About her, obviously, about you living with her now. Her mouth twisted like the memory tasted awful. Mom was mad because I did not answer fast enough earlier. She stared out the window, pupils unfocused, stuck in the replay. She wrote that she hates how Jenna tries to act like my mother. Emma swallowed, then continued before I could react to that line. She wrote that it is weird how Jenna is always around you. I could picture the kind of messages, even without exact words. I could also picture Jenna reading them, every line like a jab. Jenna saw that and asked how long we had been texting like that. Emma's voice rose a little, gaining speed like the dam cracked. She said Mom is manipulating me, and she used that exact word. Manipulating is not a gentle word, I muttered, more to myself. She kept going, Emma snapped, turning toward me now. She told me Mom is unstable and needs serious help. Each word came out clear, precise, like she had memorized them. Then she called her pathetic for using me to reach you. My grip on the wheel went rigid. I remembered Jenna telling me she addressed some unhealthy dynamics. Funny how different that sounded compared to this version. Did she actually say unstable? I asked, needing to be sure. She said dangerous in her head, Emma answered, cheeks flushed. I could feel the heat climbing my own neck now. I told her she does not know anything about my mother, Emma continued. I told her she is not allowed to speak about her like that. Her eyes shone but no tears dropped yet. She laughed, that tiny little laugh she does when she thinks she is smarter. I knew the laugh, I had heard it in arguments with her too. She said, "Sweetie, I know more than you think." Emma mimicked the tone with brutal accuracy and it stung. Then she said, "Your mom has issues and dragging you into adult fights proves it." Her hands flew up, angry now, cutting the air between us. My Z. Hest clenched because part of that sentence was not completely wrong. The way it came out of Emma's mouth, though, it sounded like a slap. So you yelled back, I guessed, seeing where it headed. I tried to take my phone, she corrected sharply. She moved it away, eyes still on the screen like I was a little kid. The car back then must have felt like a cage. Even just hearing it made me grip the wheel harder. I told her to give it back or I would get out at the next light. Emma's voice shook now, anger and old fear tangling together. She said, "Do not threaten me, young lady, you are not scary." That line did not sound like dangerous abuse. It sounded like the kind of frustrated snap adults toss out. But layered over everything else she had already said, it added weight. I started crying, like ugly crying, right there in the seat. Emma pressed her knuckles against her leg, like she still felt the humiliation. I told her she was just jealous because Dad actually loves Mom. She winced after repeating it, like the echo still embarrassed her. Yeah, I know that was mean, but I was done listening. In my mind, I could hear myself scolding that line if I were there. In the car, Jenna reacted alone, with no one to soften anything. She slammed on the brakes at the stop sign. Emma went on. The seatbelt cut into my shoulder hard. I thought we got hit. My heart lurched just imagining that jolt. She turned and stared at me and said, "Do not ever say that again." Emma lifted her chin, mocking the rigid posture. Then came the part that rewrote the whole story for me. She said, "If you keep picking her side, you can just stay with her full time." Emma's voice cracked on stay, like the word still held a threat. She said you would be fine with that because you are tired of drama. She swallowed hard, then wiped her face with the back of her hand. My mouth went dry. I knew I had once muttered something about being exhausted with conflict. I had no idea those words got weaponized in a moving car. "Are you sure about that line?" I asked, hearing doubt in my own tone. She snapped her head toward me like I had just betrayed her. "Why would I invent that?" she shot back. Her chest rose fast, her fists clenched against her thighs. I thought she was going to ask the court to change everything. There it was, the root beneath all the surface insults. "You think I am mad about chores or rules? I'm scared of losing you." That last sentence punched straight through every defense I had. I had assumed this was about attitude and turf. I had not let myself consider that Emma heard a custody threat. I opened my mouth to apologize and tripped over my own guilt. Because there was another side to that drive and I knew it. Back then, when Jenna told me about the argument, it sounded simpler. She described a teenager screaming and calling her names. She described disrespect, not fear, and I believed that angle. I did not ask what she said first. That detail somehow did not matter. Now in this car, it mattered more than anything. "I remember her telling me you were out of control that day," I admitted. Emma let out a small, disbelieving laugh. "Of course she did," she muttered, voice low and bitter. "Did she mention calling Mom unstable in front of me?" The silence stretched so long that my answer was obvious. "No," I finally said, the word rough in my throat. "She said you cursed at her and refused to hand over your phone." Emma rolled her eyes so hard it was almost painful to watch. "I said one swear after she read private stuff out loud," she shot back. Out of both of us, she was way louder. Traffic slowed in front of us and I eased off the gas. Inside, my brain raced faster than the cars ahead. I kept cycling through both stories, hers and Jenna's, trying to merge them. They did not line up, they barely overlapped at all. And in the gap between them, my loyalty stretched and creaked. "So when you tell me you do not want her at your party." I let the sentence trail off because the rest was obvious now. "It is not because you dislike her cooking or her rules." Emma turned back to the window, voice flat when she answered. "It is because she told me I could lose you if I pick Mom." There it was, clean and brutal. I had been treating this like a simple personality clash. In her head, it was a trap with me on one side and her mother on the other. And yeah, I knew Jenna would argue context and tone and stress if she heard this. But I also knew which version had been sitting raw in my kid for weeks. We reached the parking lot and I pulled into a space. The engine quieted, but the pressure in the car did not. Emma unbuckled slowly, fingers fumbling with the latch. "So now you know what happened," she said, hand on the door handle. "Are you still going to force me to celebrate with her watching?" Jenna snatched my phone off the counter before I could reach it. "It keeps buzzing," she muttered, already glancing at the screen. The group chat preview lit up again with a fresh notification. Emma's name was on top, followed by 3 laughing emojis. My heart lurched because I knew exactly which chat that was. Hey, I got it, I said too fast, stepping toward her. I held out my hand like that would rewind everything somehow. Jenna tilted the screen away, eyes narrowing while the chat expanded. Her thumb flicked once, twice, scrolling through messages I already feared. I watched the color drain from her face as the words registered. So no adults tonight, she read quietly, jaw tightening as she scanned. Only friends, no parents hanging around ruining the vibe. Her eyes climbed from the screen to my face, slow and sharp. A beat later, she scrolled again and her mouth set in a line. There it was, Emma's message sitting alone like a landmine. Also remind your parents it is a kid party, not a stepmom show. Jenna whispered that last part, but it hit the room like a shout. My throat went dry so fast I almost coughed. The explanation I had rehearsed all week just disappeared. She blinked twice, then locked the phone and placed it on the counter. This is why I am not welcome, she asked, voice oddly calm. She nudged the phone toward me with two fingers, slow and careful. Because your daughter created a rule about me specifically. Her gaze did not move, which made everything feel worse. I thought this kid's thing was your idea. I grabbed the phone like it might burn through the counter. It is not exactly what it looks like, I started, knowing that was weak. She laughed once, short and humorless, and looked back at the phone. She calls it a test in here, Jenna added, reopening the chat again. Her thumb stopped and her eyes skimmed, reading something I remembered vaguely. I leaned in and caught a glimpse before she waved me back. Emma had written that if I allowed Jenna to come, that meant something. See, Jenna murmured, tapping the line with her nail. If he picks her, I know where I stand. Hearing that sentence in Jenna's voice made my skin prickle. I was going to handle it, I insisted, words tumbling over each other. I just needed the day to stay calm for everyone. She turned fully then, shoulders squared, expression stripped down. So you lied to both of us to keep things calm. Each word landed like its own separate hit. I tried to give Emma what she needed, I argued, already defensive. She feels cornered and she is terrified of losing time with me. I heard how that sounded even while I said it. Jenna's eyes flashed, not just hurt now, there was anger too. And where do I fit in that fear equation? I opened my mouth, nothing useful came out. She looked back at the screen, scrolling through the string again. There are parents in here planning carpools and snack tables, she noted. One mom literally offers to stay and help you supervise. Her eyebrow lifted, cutting right through my earlier excuse. So it is not actually a no adults thing, she went on quietly. It is a know me thing with extra decoration. She locked the phone once more and slid it across fully. You let her write this test around you and never corrected it. The worst part is she was not wrong and we both knew it. I did not want a bigger explosion before her birthday, I murmured. It sounded pathetic even to my own ears while I said it. I thought if we got through today, everything would cool down. I rubbed my temples like pressure there could squeeze out logic. Then I could sit you both down, talk about the car, all of it. The car, she repeated, eyes narrowing again at that word. So she finally told you about that ride home. Her shoulders dropped slightly, like something heavy shifted position inside. What version did you get from her? Her tone held something sharp I could not quite label. I told her the basics, the ones Emma had shared earlier. The fight over the phone, the comments about her mother. The hint that custody threats were hanging in the air. Jenna flinched at that last part like I had slapped her. I did not threaten to change custody, she answered through clenched teeth. I told her I could not be her punching bag forever, she continued. I said if her mom keeps stirring things up, something would break. Her hands cut the air as she spoke, fast and precise. I was angry and I crossed some lines, but I did not mean that. She caught herself breathing hard, eyes bright with unshed tears. You know what she heard though, I replied, feeling my chest ache. She heard lose dad if I back my mom, pretty much word for word. We stared at each other and neither of us blinked for a moment. Two separate truths sat there, refusing to merge into one. That is what is sitting under this party, under that chat. For a long second, the only sound was the ticking clock in the hallway. Jenna final. Lai broke the silence with a sigh that sounded tired. Okay, she said, not looking at me now, just the floor. So this is not about cake or decorations or cheesy photos. This is about your kid trying to prove you belong to her alone. I hated how accurate that sounded and how small I felt. She does not want to share you with someone she thinks hates her mother. Jenna pressed her lips together, considering that twisted triangle. I get why she is furious with me, I do. She lifted her head again, and there was something stubborn in her eyes. But I am still your wife, she reminded me, voice low but firm. I am not the secret girlfriend who slips out the back door. She stepped closer, hands open like she was offering something fragile. I will not crash the party, scream at her, or steal the spotlight. I just want to be in my own home on your child's birthday. She will notice you the second you appear, I warned, stomach churning. You saw that chat, Emma is watching for any sign you chose her side. I knew I sounded like a coward again, and it made my face burn. Jenna shook her head, a small humorless smile brushing past. She already thinks you chose me, I am the proof in every message. The doorbell rang before I could find a better answer. We both jumped like we had been caught doing something wrong. Kid voices echoed faintly from the front step, rising and falling. Jenna stepped back, wiped under her eyes once, straightened her shoulders. Host your party, she murmured. I will figure out how visible to be. I walked to the door with my pulse beating in my ears. 3 girls barreled in with gift bags and loud greetings. Parents lingered in the doorway, asking about pickup windows and parking. I smiled and answered, running the script I had created for this exact moment. Yeah, you can hang out for a bit if you want. That one line already shredded the lie I had told Emma. Grown-ups drifted inside, chatting, dropping off snacks, claiming corners. My plan of a clean no-adult policy evaporated within 10 minutes. Every time another parent stayed, my guilt climbed a notch. I kept watching the hallway, half expecting Emma to storm out early. Instead, she appeared at the top of the stairs with a forced grin. Her hair was done, her shirt matched the party theme, everything coordinated. She jogged down, hugging each friend, laughing a little too loud. When her eyes skimmed the room and saw a couple parents, they narrowed. Thought it was just us, she muttered, barely loud enough for me to hear. It sort of shifted, I answered, hands full with paper plates. Some folks needed to stay, rides were complicated, life happened. She cut me a look that said she recognized that vague nonsense. Fine, she replied, brushing it off for now, pulled back by her friends. I knew that conversation was paused, not finished. The next hour blurred into games and deliveries and constant motion. I moved between rooms, refilling bowls, answering small questions, hiding nerves. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped, expecting another disaster. Jenna stayed mostly out of sight. I heard her clinking dishes in the kitchen. It was like she was haunting the edges of her own home. At one point, I slipped into the kitchen under the excuse of ice. She stood at the counter, arranging candles in the cake with careful focus. You sure you want to bring that out? I asked quietly, hovering near. Her shoulders stiffened, but she did not look away from her task. I am not skipping her song because your lie went sideways. You could stay back here while we sing, I suggested weakly. I can carry it in, we keep things simple. She set the lighter down with a soft click that sounded like a warning. If your daughter wants to hate me, she will, whether I appear or not. The least I can do is show up like an adult. Before I could respond, Emma's voice boomed from the other room. Dad, are we cutting the cake or what? A chorus of kids echoed her, impatient and excited and unaware. I looked at Jenna, she lifted the cake, hands steady, chin high. My stomach twisted, but I stepped aside and followed her out. The room erupted with that awkward offbeat birthday cheer. Emma stood at the far end of the table, surrounded by her friends. The moment her gaze landed on the cake, everything froze. Not the frosting, not the candles, the person holding it. Her eyes widened, then hardened in one long second. What is she doing here? Her voice sliced straight through the off-key singing, and everything stopped. Jenna flinched but kept holding the cake, arms tense. Conversations died out, parents looked up, one kid covered her mouth. I felt every eye in that room swing toward our little triangle. You promised, Emma continued, voice rising now, hands shaking. You looked me in the face and promised no step anything. One of her friends took a step back like the floor got unstable. Jenna opened her mouth, then closed it again, eyes glassy. I set my palms out uselessly like I could push the volume down. Em, let's talk about this inside later, I tried, words tripping over themselves. This is your celebration, we do not need a giant argument now. She laughed harsh and loud, the sound wrong on her. This is not my anything, you turned it into her show on purpose. Her finger jabbed toward Jenna, who flinched again but did not move. You told me it was a rule for everyone, Emma pressed on. You told me no adults, no parents hanging around, remember? She spun toward the couch then, arms sweeping across the room. So why are there three other moms sitting right there? The question hung in the air like smoke. No one answered. One of the women shifted uncomfortably, half raising her hand. I can head out if that helps, she murmured, already gathering her things. The offer only made Emma angrier, not calmer. It is not about you, Emma snapped, eyes already filling. It is about him lying so she would not feel left out, she continued. He chose her feelings over my boundaries again. That word again landed hard because everyone heard it. I opened my mouth, nothing helpful came out, just a useless breath. Jenna finally set the cake on the table with care and stepped back. Emma, she started softly, hands up, keeping distance obvious. I did not know about the parents staying, I saw the chat today. Her voice trembled at the edges, but she kept it steady enough. I only wanted to stand in the back and sing for you. To her credit, she did not reach out or move closer. I do not want you to sing anything for me, Emma shot back. I want you to stop digging through my messages and judging my mom. The room sucked in a collective breath at that line. We had officially crossed from birthday mess into family courtroom. You made me feel like I could lose him and then you act surprised. That last accusation hit harder than the others for both of us. I watched Jenna's face crumble just enough to show real damage. She opened her mouth, then shut it again, catching my eye. For a blink, all three of us knew this was bigger than this day. She is not wrong about how that sounded in the car, I admitted quietly. The group around the table went very still at that. Kids glanced at their parents, parents avoided my eyes, phones shifted. Somebody cleared their throat, the sound weirdly loud. Emma's shoulders dropped slightly, like she finally saw me hesitate. There it is, she whispered, you knew and you still brought her. I stepped toward her, not too close, hands extended just a little. I brought her because she lives here too, and hiding her forever is impossible. The honesty felt raw but also too late. I screwed up the way I handled all of this badly. I gestured toward the cake, trying to redirect anything. Can we at least? No, she cut in, voice flat now, exhausted. If she stays, the party is over for me. She looked around at her friends, cheeks blazing, eyes wet. Everyone can eat, open stuff, whatever, I am done. Then she turned and walked down the hall, fists clenched at her sides. Every sound in the room returned at once after she disappeared. Whispers, soft exclamations, chairs shifting, kids standing awkwardly. A couple of parents started quietly organizing their children toward the door. I stood wedged between the untouched cake and Jenna's stunned expression. And all I could think was that this was still not the worst confrontation waiting for me. The last guest stepped outside and the door clicked shut. Before I could breathe, the bell rang again. I knew who it was before I even checked. My stomach dropped so fast I felt a little dizzy. I opened the door and there she was, already wound tight. Where is she? My ex brushed past me without waiting for an answer. Her keys rattled in her hand like tiny warning bells. I got 10 frantic texts about a meltdown at her own party. She headed straight down the hallway like she still lived there. She is in her room, I called after her, feet finally moving. Give her a minute, she is wrecked. My words bounced off her back and died. She knocked once sharp, then pushed the door open. Baby, it is me, tell me what happened. I stopped near the doorway, not fully inside, not fully out. Emma sat on the edge of the bed, eyes puffy, shoulders tense. When she saw her mom, her face crumpled all over again. He brought her out with the cake, she choked out. He knew I did not want that, and he did it anyway. My ex shot me a look like a knife tossed across the room. You really pulled that stunt today, she asked, voice low and cold. I thought even you had lines you would not cross. I lifted my hands, useless shield, words jammed in my chest. Emma kept talking over both of us like a dam finally shattered. He lied about the whole no parents thing, she rushed on. He let other Om stay, just not her. She laughed, harsh and broken, wiping her face with her sleeve. I looked stupid in front of everyone because I trusted him. Those last two words hit harder than any insult. My ex sat beside her and wrapped an arm around her shoulders. You did nothing wrong, she murmured, chin lifting toward me. This is exactly why I told you to set boundaries. The way she said boundaries made my skin prickle. I stepped fully into the room now because I had to hear this. What do you mean you told her? I asked, voice tighter than I planned. Both of them turned toward me, one glare, one hurt stare. My ex exhaled slowly like she was tired of pretending. I told her she had the right to say no to that woman. She shrugged once, but her eyes were sharp, not casual. Did you tell her to make the birthday a test? I pushed. Emma stiffened, gaze flicking between us now. My ex tilted her head, measuring me, deciding how honest to be. I told her to notice what you chose when it mattered, she answered. If you picked your wife over your daughter on her day, that says plenty. There it is, I muttered, chest buzzing like static. You turned a kid party into proof for your own scoreboard. She stood up now, moving closer, face inches from mine. You turned our child into a prop first when you dragged that woman in, she snapped. I am just trying to show Emma what your priorities really are. Do you hear yourself? I asked, laughing once out of pure stress. You are using her fear to push your story about me. Emma watched us, frozen, eyes wide, breathing fast. My ex folded her arms, nails pressed into her sleeves. You already gave me that story in your texts. That sentence stopped me cold. What texts? I asked, though I already knew. She pulled her phone from her pocket and unlocked it. A few swipes later, she shoved it toward my face. My own words stared back at me, stacked in neat bubbles. I'm drained, I cannot keep doing this drama. I feel pulled in 10 directions, I need peace. If something does not change, I will snap. Reading it in that thread felt like swallowing gravel. I had typed them late at night, thinking I was just venting. You wrote that, not me, she said, tapping the screen. So yes, I told Emma, if you keep choosing your wife's comfort, that matters. My jaw clenched because there was no clean way around that. I never told her you would ship her off over it, I shot back. You twisted frustration into some custody thread in her head. Emma's hands balled in the blanket between us. Both of you are talking like I am not here, she cut in. Her voice cracked, but she kept going anyway. Mom, you did say if he keeps picking her, we would figure something out. She turned toward me now, eyes bright and wild. You both made it sound real. My ex froze for a beat, then nodded slowly. I said we would not let anyone push you out of my life, she replied. I said if he made it clear you are not first, we would change things. She looked at me again, gaze steady, daring me to deny it mattered. I did not call a lawyer over cake, if that is your next accusation. You put that possibility in her head though, I answered, throat tight. Then you told her to use today to see if I was salvageable. Saying it out loud made the whole scheme sound even uglier. Emma dropped her head, hair falling forward like a curtain. I just wanted to know if I mattered to you more than she does, she whispered. That line hit something deep, something old in all three of us. I stepped closer to the bed and dropped to one knee. Of course you matter more, I blurted, too fast, too automatic. She lifted her gaze, eyes narrowing, not letting me off that easy. Then why did you bring her out when you knew I did not want it? Because she lives here too, I answered, forcing myself not to look away. Because pretending she does not exist every time things get rough is poison. I took a breath, slow and rough, trying to form words that were not excuses. And because I thought I could juggle everyone's feelings without dropping anything. I spread my hands like I could show her the mess in the air. I turned to my ex then because I was not letting her skate either. You encouraged her to set a trap instead of helping us fix the mess, I said. You did that while you knew how fragile she felt about the car fight. Her mouth tightened, but she did not look away, which I respected a little. I also reassured her that if you broke her trust again, I would choose her, she replied. Emma sucked in a sharp breath at that. Choose me how? She asked quietly. Her mother sat beside her again, taking her hand, tone soft. If he keeps proving you are optional, you live with me all the time, she answered. The word all hung in the room like a loaded weight. That was not your choice alone to promise, I snapped. My voice came out louder than I intended and Emma flinched. I forced my tone down, but the anger stayed. You do not get to use custody as a threat during emotional coaching sessions. I pointed toward the door, fighting the urge to punch the wall instead. You made it a threat when you let that woman tell her she was losing you, my ex shot back. That car ride shook her for weeks and you brushed it off as teenage drama. She gestured toward Emma, who curled in on herself a little more. She begged you to protect her and you told her to give your wife a chance. Her voice cracked at the end and for once it sounded more sad than furious. Here is the ugly thing I have to admit. She was not completely wrong about that part. I had minimized that drive because it was easier than confronting it. I looked at Emma and felt the guilt hit like a physical shove. I should have listened harder the first time, I said, voice raw now. Emma stared at me, searching for something real. I told you I was scared and you called it attitude, she whispered. Her hands trembled in her lap, fingers digging into her own palms. You told me to work harder at the relationship with Jenna. She swallowed, then added, you never told her to work harder with me. That last line cracked something open in my chest. I sat on the edge of the mattress, leaving space but staying put. You are right, I answered, no pretty buffer, no spin. I kept asking you to adjust to everyone because you are the kid. I did not ask the grown-ups to adjust to you, not enough. My ex watched me now, expression shifting from pure anger to something like surprise. That is the first honest thing you have said today, she muttered. It stung, but I deserve that jab, maybe worse. I nodded once because fighting that would just waste more air. I was tired of dodging my reflection in this whole mess. So what now? Emma asked, voice small but steady. Her question hung there, bigger than this house, bigger than birthday fallout. Do I just skip every event she is at? She added. Do you two flip a coin for holidays and I just deal with it? Her eyes bounced between us, braced for another round of half answers. I glanced toward my ex and saw something like resolve settle in. For now, you come home with me tonight, she decided. We give you distance from this circus and from that marriage drama. She looked at me, eyebrows raised, waiting for my blow-up. It did not come because I knew she was not completely wrong. Fine, I said, heart pounding but voice controlled. But this does not get filed under proof. He chose his wife over you. I pointed gently toward Emma, needing her to hear the next part. You leaving tonight is about calming down, not about punishing anyone. I took a breath, long and shaky, and I am the one who screwed this day up most. My ex blinked, thrown for a second by the lack of fight. You are really admitting that? She asked, almost suspicious. Yeah, I answered, because there was nowhere else to go now. I lied to both of you to avoid conflict, and it exploded anyway. I spread my hands empty because that was the truth stripped down. Emma stood slowly, legs unsteady, eyes still wet. I want to pack a bag, she murmured. She brushed past me and headed to the closet, shoulders tight. Before she disappeared behind the door, she paused and glanced back. When I come back here, she is not at the door with a cake again, right? That question hung there like a deadline I had set for myself. I did not answer with another promise I could not keep. I cannot erase her from this house, I replied, keeping my tone calm. But I can stop putting you in situations where you feel trapped. It sounded thin, but it was the first step that felt honest. My ex turned toward the hallway to give us a second. I stayed in the room, listening to drawers open and close, zipper teeth sliding. Every sound felt like a clock ticking toward a different life. I knew once she walked out with that bag, the balance shifted for good. I also knew the next conversation I had would be with Jenna, and it would not be gentle. Jenna was waiting at the bottom of the stairs with her bag packed. Is she gone? She asked, fingers locked around the handle. The house felt way too big and way too small at once. I nodded once because my voice did not trust me yet. She watched my face like she was reading a verdict. So that is it, she said, shoulders rigid. She cries, her mom storms in, and I am the villain again. She laughed under her breath, sharp and empty. I should have expected it on a birthday, honestly. Her eyes stayed dry, which somehow looked worse than tears. You are not the only one who screwed this up, I answered. It came out rough, but at least it was true. I am the one who set the whole thing on fire. I stepped closer, leaving enough space so it did not feel like crowding. Emma asked for you not to be there, and I lied to both of you. Hersey. Hin lifted like I had slapped her. She asked you to exclude me, and you just agreed. Jenna let go of the bag, and it thumped against the floor. Then you dragged me out with the cake as a surprise prop. Her mouth twisted. You realize that is worse than just banning me, right? I tried to have it both ways, I admitted, no spin left. I thought I could protect Emma and keep you from feeling rejected. I rubbed the back of my neck, heat crawling up my spine. In reality, I made you walk straight into a trap I helped build. The words tasted awful, but they were finally accurate. So what exactly did you tell her? She asked, voice low. Not the party version, the car version. She folded her arms, bracing herself, jaw tight. I met her eyes because if I looked away, I would lie again. She remembers you calling her mom broken and hinting she could lose me. Jenna's face went slack for a second, like something shorted out. I told her your ex needed therapy, not that she was broken, she replied slowly. I told her you were tired of chaos because you are. Her hands opened and closed at her sides, restless and shaking. I did say if her mom keeps stirring it, something will have to change. She heard that as you sending her away if she picked her mom, I said. It was not a question and we both knew it. She has been carrying that around for weeks, maybe longer. I watched the realization land on Jenna's face in real time. She pressed a hand to her forehead like she could push it back out. That is not what I meant, she whispered, finally sounding rattled. I was angry and scared and I wanted her to see reality. She paced 2 tight circles, bare feet loud on the floor. I should never have gone near custody talk, that is on me. She stopped and looked at me again, but you left me alone in it. That part was true and ugly and completely fair. You told me she unloaded on you in the car, I answered. You left out the part where you unloaded on her mother. I took a breath that felt like dragging sand through my chest. And I wanted to believe the simple version, so I did. Jenna leaned on the wall, head tilted back, staring at the ceiling. So where does that leave us, she asked, voice thin. Because right now it feels like I am the intruder in my own house. She glanced at the staircase like it might bite her. And your ex just told our neighbors I traumatized your kid on her birthday. She is taking Emma for a bit, I said, forcing the words out. They both need distance from this place and from you and me together. I watched her flinch at that last part and hated myself again. This is not permanent, but I am not fighting that tonight. I sounded tired and older than I felt, which was saying something. So I am just supposed to walk around like a ghost until then, she asked. Her voice sharpened, anger finally beating out shock. Eat dinner alone, sleep next to a guy whose daughter hates me. She shook her head, pushing away from the wall. I cannot be the villain and the hostess at the same time. Then do not be either, I said, surprising both of us. I moved toward the couch and dropped down heavily. Right now I need a partner who can own what she did, not defend the script. I looked up at her, no softness left in my tone. And I need to stop hiding behind everyone else's bad choices. She stared at me like she did not recognize the person talking. You think I have not owned anything, she asked, eyes narrowing. I tried to stay out of the way today, you dragged me in. Her voice rose, hand slicing the air in short, sharp lines. I let you convince me she would come around if I kept trying. You also grabbed her phone and tore into her mother right in front of her, I answered. You let your frustration with my ex land on a 13-year-old. I held her gaze even when she blinked fast and her eyes glossed. That stops, I do not care how justified you feel in the moment. If you talk about her mom again, it is not me you will lose first. That last line came out before I could polish it. It hung there between us, heavier than anything else that night. Jenna's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. You are threatening me with your daughter now, she said quietly. I guess I know exactly where I rank. I am telling you my non-negotiable, I replied, steadier than I felt. She is a kid stuck between 2 adults who hate each other. I tapped my chest once hard just to ground myself. I helped build that triangle and I am done adding nails to it. If that makes you feel second, I do not know how to fix that yet. For a minute we just breathed at each other, too tired to perform. Jenna finally reached for the bag again and lifted it. I am going to my sister's for a while, she said. No dramatic exit, no lawyers, just space so you can untangle this. Her fingers tightened on the strap. Call me if you actually want me. Back, not just the help. The front door closing behind her was softer than earlier slams. It still felt like a wall dropping somewhere in my chest. I stood alone in the hallway, listening to nothing, absolutely wrecked. For a second I almost called her to come back instantly. Then I thought about Emma's face when the cake appeared and my hand dropped. A few days later, Emma agreed to come over for an hour. Her mom waited in the driveway, engine running, eyes on the house. I watched through the window and forced myself not to wave. When the door opened, Emma stepped inside like she was entering a courtroom. Backpack on one shoulder, shoulders stiff, eyes guarded. Is she here? She asked immediately, scanning the living room. Her shoes stayed planted near the mat, ready to bolt. No, I answered, keeping my voice even. She moved out for now so we can deal with this without extra noise. The way I said it hurt, but it was the truth. Emma's posture changed just enough for me to notice. Not relaxed, but less like a coiled spring about to snap. So what is this? She asked, dropping her bag by the chair. You giving another speech about how I need to compromise? Her eyebrow arched, daring me to repeat old patterns. No speeches, I said, holding up both hands. I asked you to come so I could tell you what I did wrong out loud. My heart was pounding, but my voice stayed steady enough. I also want to tell you what will change from here on. I motioned toward the couch. You can sit or stand, your choice. She sat on the edge, knees pointed toward the door, not me. I took the chair across from her, no coffee table between us this time. For once, I did not start with anyone else's behavior. I used you as a shield, I began, no warm-up, no jokes. I hid behind your anger so I did not have to confront hers. She blinked, not expecting that angle. I told you I would respect your boundary about the party, I continued. And then I built a fake rule so I did not have to enforce it honestly. I swallowed, feeling the words scratch all the way down. I lied to you and I lied to her and I made you both look foolish. Emma stared at me, eyes locked, almost scared to believe it. You are actually admitting that without blaming her or mom first, she said slowly. A tiny, bitter smile tugged at one corner of her mouth. This might be a trap, she added like she half meant it. I am not used to you starting with your own mess. It is not a trap, I answered, leaning forward, elbows on my knees. I heard what you told me in the car about that ride. I took a breath, aware of my voice shaking a little. I minimized it because I wanted things quiet here, and that was wrong. I am not going to call your fear attitude again. Her eyes watered, but she wiped them fast with the heel of her hand. So what happens to her, she asked, meaning Jenna, not saying it. Does she just stroll back in when you two patch it up? Her fingers twisted together in her lap, knuckles white. Do I get a say in that, or is that above my pay grade? You absolutely get a say in how and when she is around you, I replied. I chose each word slowly, like I was laying down bricks. I cannot promise you will never be in the same room again. I can promise no surprise entrances at parties, no forced hugs, no fake scenes. And no more conversations about your mom in front of you from anyone. She let that sit between us for a moment, breathing uneven. You told her that, she asked, voice soft. Yeah, I said, I told her if she does that again, we are done. It sounded brutal, but it was the cleanest thing I had. She needed to hear that line with no padding. Emma stared at the floor, toe tapping against the rug. Mom told me you were finally picking a lane, she murmured. She thinks you will either crawl back to Jenna or try to be the hero with me. She looked up, searching my face. Which one is this conversation? Neither, I said, and I meant it in a way that scared me. I am not the hero in this story, and I am done pretending. I sat back, letting the silence stretch a beat. I am also not crawling anywhere, I am standing in the mess I made. And I want to build something different with you, even if it is small. Her mouth pressed into a line, fighting another reaction. What does different look like? She asked, skeptical but listening. I exhaled slowly, counting to 3 before I answered. First, one night a week is just you and me, I said. No partners, no work calls, no errands, just us. You pick the activity. She studied me like she was waiting for a catch. And second, I added, we find someone neutral to talk to. Her eyes narrowed again, like a therapist, she asked. Yeah, I replied, for you alone at first if you want that. And maybe later, if you are up for it, sessions with me in the room. Emma leaned back, absorbing that, breathing a little easy. Lars? Mom will freak about the therapy idea, she muttered. She loves venting but hates when strangers take notes. A quick crooked smile flashed, then faded. I kind of want it though, I am tired of being the emotional trash can. Then I will handle that argument with her, I promised. You do not have to be the messenger for my decisions anymore. I felt something loosen inside when I said that. I am the grown-up, if she wants to yell, she can aim it at me. You get to be the kid in this triangle, not the courier. For the first time that day, Emma actually laughed. It was short and rough, but it was real. Triangle is a weird word for 3 people who hate each other, she said. Then she sobered, fingers tracing a line on her knee. If I agree to therapy and the weekly thing, do I have to forgive Jenna? No, I answered immediately, no hesitation, no lecture. You do not owe her forgiveness on any schedule. I watched her eyes as I kept talking, making sure she heard it. What I am asking is this: if things ever change with her, let it be because she earns it. Not because I guilt you or your mom weaponizes you or Reddit decides. She snorted at that last part, shaking her head. You are not seriously planning to post this online, she said. I shrugged, a little embarrassed because I had considered it. I thought about it, I admitted, to see if strangers would call me a monster or not. Then I realized I already know I messed up, and that was the easy question. What is the hard one? She asked, curiosity slipping through the guard. I looked right at her and did not look away. Whether I can show you something different from now on, I said. Whether choosing honesty over comfort, even when it hurts, actually sticks. And whether you will let me prove that without more tests. She sat with that for a long moment, the room surprisingly quiet. Finally she stood, grabbed her bag and walked toward the door. My heart sank thinking she was done, that this was another exit. At the threshold she paused and turned back, hand on the knob. Next birthday, she said, you ask me first who cuts the cake. That line landed like a small, cautious truce. It was not forgiveness, not even close, but it was not a goodbye either. Deal, I answered, feeling my throat tighten. She nodded once, then opened the door and headed to the car. I watched her go, hoping she believed me more than she showed. So here I am now, typing this out instead of posting a poll. I am not asking if I am the villain. I wore that role just fine already. I am asking something harder that strangers cannot really answer. If a dad stops ducking and finally chooses the uncomfortable middle, does it count? Because that choice is all I have left and I am standing in it.